Coming up on this episode of Freedom from Fire. We all know how important it is to have electricity, but are you aware of the dangers that come along with it? We'll talk with a member of PECO to learn more, so please stay tuned to Freedom from Fire. Hello and welcome to Freedom from Fire. I'm your host, Philadelphia Fire Commissioner Adam Thiel. Here at Freedom from Fire, we aim to improve your quality of living by giving you fire and life safety information. We also introduce you to some of our local safety partners. One of those vital local partners is PECO. They have certainly demonstrated their support of health and safety organizations and actively participate in many community initiatives. They partner with the Philadelphia Fire Department to help educate the public about storm safety, electrical surges, and general electric safety, to name just a few. Obviously, with safety as a priority, every measure is taken to prevent problems and reduce risks, but there are inherent dangers associated with electricity. Here to talk to us about some of those dangers is PECO's Director of Communications, Doug Oliver. So Doug, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We were on the radio earlier this week together, which is great, and we wanted to have you on the TV show to talk a little bit about electrical safety.
Yep.
As you know, and as some of our viewers may know, fires in 2016, we had almost 3,000 structural fires, and unfortunately 21 fire deaths in 2016. And one of the leading causes of those fires was electrical, and frequently electrical appliances used in different ways and maybe violating some of the safety tips and techniques that you're going to talk about later. But we also want to just talk generally about PECO and your partnerships with the fire department. So tell us what's up with PECO and how you work with us, and together we work on our joint mission to ensure safety in our community.
Yeah, well, again, thank you for having us on the show. We value the relationship that we have with you, particular, but also with the fire department and other first responders, including police and the Office of Emergency Management, even PGW, Red Cross and others. Anytime there's a challenge and folks come together to try and help work through it, it's a relationship that you don't want to have to establish when things are going wrong. It's nice to have those relationships in advance. So we welcome the opportunity to join you here today. I'm a relatively new employee at PECO. I'm running out of the ability to say that for much longer, but it's been about 8 months. And one of the things that struck me first about working there was the culture of safety. Oftentimes you hear safety is priority number one, but I can tell you as a new employee to know that every meeting that we have there begins with a safety minute, where there's just some conversation related to PECO, related to electricity or not, but just to constantly keep our minds working and wrapped around the fact that waking up and deciding to be safe is a conscious decision. It doesn't happen by accident. So we got 2,600 employees who look out for each other, and even as simple as not jaywalking at the corner is a principle. When it's wet outside, whether it's snow or ice or not, every call ends with be safe. And as I mentioned when we spoke over the weekend, our COO has a saying, every man goes home. Everybody goes home in the same condition that they came to work. And it's a commitment that the company has made to its employees, and it's a commitment that it requires its employees to make to each other. And then obviously that trickles out to all of the people that we serve, the 1.6 million electric customers that we have, the 2 million customers, gas and electric, that we have. And so it really starts there. And so when we talk about safety, and we'll talk about some tips on the other half, we're talking about something that even the professionals have to think about every day. And I know I'm telling you more than I know, but it's not something that those folks over there that aren't experts, they need to be taught how to be safe because we got it under control. We have to make the conscious decision every single day that we're going to be safe, and we approach every job and every situation. I'll start with a quick story. In the first couple of weeks that I started at PECO, I was riding around with one of our crews and just watching them do different projects and familiarizing ourselves with really the guts of what the organization does from an operational perspective. And there was something that the supervisor told me that stuck with me. He said, "The wizard respects no one." And I said, "Who's the wizard?" He said, "Electricity. It doesn't care if you are on your first day or you are a 39-year vet and you're about to retire. You mess up once, the wizard's going to do what it does, and it does not respect anyone." And so even as he explained it, there are times when we'll de-energize a line before we work. There are times when you have to work on it while it's live. And he said, and really, in some cases, working on the line when it's live always reminds you that you have to do all of your double checks and your safety. And you got a world of people around you that are pushing for it. So I left that conversation, I left my own experience as a new employee coming on board with this real sense that you're coming into an organization where being safe is a priority, to the point where first move out, backing into parking spots, all of these different things are things that are always top of mind for me. And so it's fitting then that we have this relationship with other safety organizations like the fire department. And that's not a new relationship. It's been one that we've had for quite some time. Almost every emergency that we encounter, if it's a fire or if it's just, or anything really, our job is to make sure, at least from an electrical perspective, that it's safe even to fight a fire. You'll recall just a week and a half ago, we had a fire at one of our substations, and before the fire could be fought, it had to be de-energized. And so it took a little bit of time to make sure that not just our employees were safe, but that your guys were safe when they go in, and we take as much time as necessary to do that. And so that happens every time somebody hits an electrical pole, or anytime, obviously, that there's a fire, a natural gas leak, anytime where people need to be evacuated. We're working with our counterparts at different agencies to make sure that the job can be done safely. And that's a relationship that's been in place for many, many years, and we kind of get to know each other. We know what the policies and the procedures are. We know what the sort of incident command structure should be. And it makes fighting those emergencies a lot easier to do when the relationships are strong.
So we've talked about our organization's shared commitment to safety, and you know, we talked about this, very similar organizations really in terms of size and scope, and we also kind of wear safety on our sleeves. You know, everybody goes home. And we talk a lot about the response component, but we have a long history of partnerships along with some of our other partners like the Red Cross around prevention. You know, as safe as our organizations are, as safe as our members are, we still need, you know, we would say fire is everyone's fight, and we know that, you know, PECO has helped support that over the years, and it's really the same with electrical safety, right?
Yep, it's absolutely, and you mentioned the Red Cross. That's another organization where we've partnered with the fire department and the Red Cross. One of our executives, a guy by the name of Eric Helt, he's our Vice President of Electric Operations. He's on the board of the Red Cross, and they brought to PECO's attention, he and Red Cross, No More Fire Deaths campaign. So PECO is a proud sponsor of that campaign, contributing, I believe, $55,000 to, and not just money, but time. PECO employees, fire department employees, Red Cross volunteers, and put more than 8,000 smoke alarms in the most vulnerable communities around the city. So again, it's not enough to just talk it, you kind of have to live it, but these sorts of partnerships are ways other than the emergencies that pop up that we can work together, because again, it's everybody's fight.
Right, and really just earlier this week we met with some more of your executives and folks about how we can strengthen that collaboration, not just in the wake of the substation fire, where we did really a great job of partnership and response there and communication, but even some of the durable partnerships down the road, and how can we support prevention and everything else. So I think you know, we're going to get pretty close to looking at some footage here, and when we come back from the break, we'll want to talk a little bit about safety tips. What's maybe the first thing, you know, top of mind for you in terms of electrical safety that you would want to share with all of our viewers?
Yeah, we got a lot of examples, so I'm happy to share some.
All right, outstanding. So, there we go.
Today we are going around LaSalle University's campus interviewing students about home and fire safety. According to the U.S. Fire Administration, how many home fires involve people with physical disabilities each year? Approximately 200, approximately 700, approximately 1,200, approximately 2,000.
I'm going to go with B, approximately 700.
Is it the 1,200?
I would say approximately 2,000.
700?
Correct.
Yay!
According to the U.S. Fire Administration, where do most home fires typically start? Kitchens and cooking areas, bedrooms, garages, living rooms.
Kitchens.
Kitchens.
Kitchen and living room.
Correct. It's important to have smoke alarms in your house so that you can be alerted quickly if there is a fire. Where should you install smoke alarms? In every room and hallway, on every level of your home and in every sleeping room, in the kitchen, within every 12 feet of your home.
In every room and hallway? Every level of your home and sleeping rooms?
I would say in every hallway.
Within every room and hallway.
Close. On every level of your home and in every sleeping room. How often should you test your smoke alarm? Every day, every month, twice a year, or once a year?
Every month.
I would say every 3 months.
Every month.
Correct. When it comes to multi-story buildings, where does the U.S. Fire Administration suggest you live or sleep? Closest to the elevator, near the stairs, on the middle floor closest to the interior of the building, on the ground, or first floor?
First floor.
In the middle of the building.
On the ground floor. First floor?
Correct. Woo!
Thank you.
And great job.
Thank you.
Thank you for participating.
Hey, what's up?
But I am beyond drunk. I am so hungry. You wanna go get something to eat?
Yeah, we had like 2 drinks.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, yeah, meet me outside my house in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'll meet you at your house. Okay.
What's up, man? Come on, my God, you're so drunk. Just get in my car. Let's go.
Whoa, you're swerving.
I'm fine. You're the drunk one. I only had 2 cups. That's it.
I'm drunk. I thought you were drunk.
I'm not drunk. If I was drunk, I wouldn't be driving. It was just 2 beers. It's not gonna do anything.
Three, two, one, action. You may think a guy would be producing this, but I can too. Anyone can find a cure.
Women are being downgraded for their physical ability, but you can be just as strong.
%20 of women are engineers, but it doesn't stop there.
I'm a tech girl. I'm a tech girl.
I am a tech girl.
I am a tech girl.
Welcome back to Freedom from Fire. I'm your host, Philadelphia Fire Commissioner Adam Thiel. Today I'm talking about electric safety with PECO's Director of Communications, Doug Oliver. So Doug, we wanted to talk a little bit about some safety tips, some things that people can do to help with our shared mission of ensuring that fire is everyone's fight and also electrical safety. So what are some of those things that folks can do around the home to help ensure that they're safe?
Sure. There's a wide variety of things that people have to choose from. Again, it's sometimes the smallest thing that can keep a person or a family safe. Today we've got some safety tips, and I'll kind of categorize some of where they're coming from, so it might make it easier to remember what some of them are. But we'll talk a little bit about electrical appliances. We'll talk about electrical disturbances, or what most people just call surges. We'll talk about the good old-fashioned rule that water and electricity don't mix. And there's things to just remember with respect to that. And then, as we just had, obviously the roads are clearing up now, but a couple of days ago, Monday,
right.
I guess it was.
It all runs together.
Yeah, it all starts to run together. We had a storm. And so we'll talk a little bit about things that people can do before a storm, during a storm, and after a storm, both from a safety perspective and some of the tips, or even just basic convenience. And lastly, we'll talk about generators, because a lot of people rely on them in those
right.
instances where they don't have electricity. So I'll jump right in with electric appliances. First one I'll talk about is one that probably comes near and dear a lot. We're at LaSalle, so it's only right that we talk to college students a little
right.
bit. There's a difference between a power strip and a surge protector. And one of the things that folks do is they overload one outlet. They use a power strip to just put a bunch of things in, and then that way you can have your electronics and all your stuff right there in front of the TV. But the more things you plug in, the more of a hazard it becomes. It reminds me of the genie who offers you 3 wishes. And as a kid, I always wonder, well, why don't I give them 2 wishes and let the 3rd wish be 3 more wishes?
Right.
And we treat power cords the same way. We'll take a 5 strip, we'll plug into the 5th outlet, another one for 5, and now we can get 10, all going into one outlet. These are things that are prevalent on college campuses, but also in a lot of homes. People don't necessarily know. We've got a lot of gadgets, a lot of things we want to charge, and so the first safety tip is to make sure that you respect each outlet for what it is and don't overload them through the use of extension cords and those kinds of things.
Yeah, we see that. I mean, you're almost guaranteeing yourself a fire if you start linking those power strips together or using extension cords to move power around anything but short distances.
And sometimes even the safety mechanisms that are built in, like 3-pronged outlets, people just go get a 3 to 2 adapter, plop it on, and treat it like it's a 2.
Right.
But it was manufactured that way for a reason. And so we don't want to let our conveniences get in the way of our safety. So that's one. But when we're talking about appliances, when you look at them, we want to make sure that we're respecting the manufacturer's specifications on them. A visual inspection of that appliance might show a frayed cord. And again, I'm always telling stories about how I grew up and when I grew up, but I always had a guy, we called him Duct Tape Daddy, because he thought anything could be fixed with duct tape.
You mean it can't?
He would take a frayed cord and he'd wrap it. Now, maybe it made it safer than it would have been otherwise, but the fact of the matter is it's not electrical tape.
Right.
But more importantly, it's not safe. It's just not safe. And so our recommendation would be that if you have an appliance that has a frayed cord, those kinds of things, get it repaired. And if you don't know how to repair it yourself, feel free to take it to somebody, a professional who can fix that appliance for you. You don't want to attempt to touch or fix it with your hand, particularly if it's still plugged in, because it is live. And so, again, when you're just looking around your home, you're looking around your room, your dorm, and you see something frayed, stay away from it.
Right.
Those surges that we talked about, surge protection can save your equipment. Now, this is safety of your equipment and safety of your money, which means it's equally as important. Every now and again, a tree limb will fall or somebody will hit a pole, and it causes a surge, which is essentially more electricity coming through than should be the case. A lot of folks don't necessarily know it, but your appliances are only equipped to handle but so much voltage. And if it surges, surge protectors, which are different from power strips.
Right.
Some power strips are surge protectors, others are not. You'd want to make sure you know the difference between the two, and you want to make sure that all of your important appliances, your TV, your computer, all your expensive stuff is cared for by connecting it to a surge protector. Also, for that same reason, folks can look around and see if their insurance policies are covering those same things, and so you can get whole house protection, which protects you against the surge. Again, those surges don't happen all the time, but when they do, the negative impact that it can have on appliances becomes really important, and making sure that in those instances, those outlets aren't overwired are simple things that every homeowner, anyone who's in an apartment or a dorm can do to make sure that they and the people who live there as well are safe.
Small price to pay for safety, right?
Small price, very small price. We'll talk a little bit about water and electricity. It's the oldest one in the book. It's the first thing I learned growing up. In fact, it was part of the reason why the substation fire from last week took a little bit of time before a fire department could spring into action, because you can't just spray water on it. You see a fire, your instinct is, well, dump water on it. And that typically works, but it doesn't work in an electrical fire. In that case, there's different techniques. I didn't mention it earlier, but we have a fire academy that we work with the fire department on to really talk about the unique characteristics of an electrical fire. But in any case, during that substation fire, we used chemicals. Chemicals were used, and ultimately fire department could come in and fight it, but the area had to be de-energized first. So when you're in your home, the same way we don't want water and fire connecting at our substation, even in the context of a fire, we don't want water and electricity touching when people are coming out of the shower and drying their hair. When your hair's wet, when your rug is damp and you're standing there, we say, go ahead and dry off before you start using hair dryers and those other sort of electrical equipment. And it sounds counterintuitive because it's a bathroom. Why they put plugs in the bathroom if we're not supposed to use them? Then that's another tip. Make sure that those are ground fault protected, GFCIs they call them. And what happens is if there's a fault, if there's something happening that shouldn't, it'll just cut off at that moment. And that's a way of keeping folks safe. And you'll see those in bathrooms. You should see them in bathrooms. You should see them in kitchens
too,
and even in basements where you might have a sink or washer and dryer and those kinds of things. So these GFCIs are another safety tip that folks can pay attention to.
These are the outlets, just for folks to, these are the ones that have the little button in the middle of them, and that's how you can recognize a GFCI. And the other thing just to mention is another type of fire you don't want to put water on is a grease fire. So no electric fires, no grease fires. And of course we would always say anytime there's a fire, before you do anything, you want to call 911 and make sure that the fire department and all the other appropriate resources are on the way. So yeah, we had the big substation fire, great collaboration there. The storm, and you were going to talk a little bit about generators and ice and wires.
Yeah, and so one of the things that happens when PECO comes out and we de-energize a line so that a fire can be fought or that work can begin on it is it takes a lot because you have to make sure, again, that line is serving lots of people. That substation, for example, was serving 36,000 meters, 36,000 households effectively in that neighborhood. And so when you de-energize, and not only are people affected on the backside, but anybody who's putting energy back onto it can actually create a dangerous situation. And there are a couple ways that people put energy on. A generator is one such way. People who have solar panels, that's another way. And Electric 101, electric comes in at a high voltage. If you ever look up in the sky and you see this trash can looking thing at the top of a wooden pole, it looks like a trash can. What it is a transformer, and it downgrades the electric voltage into the house. Well, if you put energy back on the line and it hits the transformer, it automatically ramps that voltage up. So one of the things we tell folks is never hardwire your generator into your electric line. They should be operated outside of the house and independent of the electric system, because again, backfeed is the terminology that PECO would use. It can backfeed and it can ramp up. And just that quickly, there's a lot of voltage, and it could hurt the firefighters that are working, it could hurt the PECO folks that are out there working, it could hurt yourself. And so what we want folks to know about generators is very, very important to use them per the manufacturer's specifications, including operating them outside of the house and not inside.
And so incredible job with the storm and wires down and your crews being out there and helping keep people up and operating. Basically, quick rule of thumb, if you see a wire down, don't pretend that you know what it is or don't think you know what it is. You have some numbers you can call 911 if you're not sure, but stay away from it.
Yeah, definitely stay away from it. There's tips that I won't even try and get into now for what to do if you couldn't stay in it. But the first thing to do is stay there until the area is made safe. You don't want to touch it to find out if it's alive. And you can always call 911, but you can always call PECO as well. 1-800-841-4141. That's a number that we hope folks will keep on their refrigerator, keep nearby, keep in their car. If ever you're concerned, you're not sure, you don't have to test. As my mechanic says, test, don't guess.
Or if you have an outage, right, you want to call that number if there's an outage. Again, we were talking about tips for things you can do before, during, and after. Is one, make sure that number is always handy for you. People call to say, hey, I'm out, but chances are with our smart meter, smart grid system that's in place now, we'll already know that it's out, but we won't necessarily know exactly what the cause is. So if you can see that there's a down wire, that can be very helpful in getting service restored at a faster pace. If you see a car hit a pole and the pole's down. So if there's additional information, call that number and give as much information as you have about the situation, and it aids not only in us getting the area safe, but also getting the convenience of electricity back up and running for the folks that need it. And doing that great thing that, of course, we all do here in Philly, which is watch out for our neighbors, take care of our communities, take care of our neighborhoods, and really live the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. So we could spend all day talking about electrical and fire safety. Thank you so much for taking the time to come out and talk about it a little bit more. Yep. And we'll have some websites and some social media things for folks to look at here momentarily. So remember, if you would like to find out more about LaSalle TV, you can check out our social media sites. And if you are interested in learning about the Philadelphia Fire Department, you can visit our Facebook and our Twitter at Philly Fire Department and our web pages. I also want to thank Doug from PECO for joining us today, and would like to thank all of you for tuning in and watching this month's edition. So until next time, remember that fire is everyone's fight. So stay safe and remain free from fire.